Well, good day, everybody. I am here today with Bryan with It's Skinny. Bryan, thank you again for taking some time with me today. And for those who are watching, my name is Dr. Michael Hartley. I'm a senior partner with ActionCOACH. We are a business care company where CARE stands for community, accountability, results, and education. And part of the education piece is sharing others' success. So, Bryan, I'd like to open it up with you and just say, hey, why don't you start with a little bit of introduction, tell our viewers about you and your business and how long you've been in business, basic kind of stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on, Michael. Always happy to do stuff like this. So It's Skinny is a naturally gluten-free ketogenic pasta alternative. My name is Bryan, as you mentioned. Started the business about 3 years ago, a little under 3 years ago. With a couple partners. Basically, the genesis of this actually goes back to 2014. I had a gut issue. I went paleo for a year and started realizing all the things that I felt were wrong with the consumer goods industry and the food and bev industry. Developed just a lot of knowledge around what I wanted to do, or how I wanted to learn and consume. I learned basically. Kind of brought me to a point. I was in capital markets. I was an investment banker before getting into this. And I had done some things in consumer goods, got pretty good at it. Felt like I had a good understanding of what made certain businesses succeed and fail. And so we saw an opportunity here in the marketplace a few years ago, and we just went after it. Our product is made from a root vegetable called konjac. And konjac is only about 20% of consumers know what it is, and why it's beneficial. And what we found in the pasta category is the low glycemic community is hugely alienated, right? It's pasta, it's wheat, and then your alternatives are mostly chickpea based or legume based, and they're high in carbohydrates and calories still. So anyone with a dietary restriction like celiac, Crohn's, diabetes, or gout, anyone who was really proactive about macronutrient consumption, like people on Whole30, paleo diets or keto diets, and really anyone with an interest of just consuming some kind of low glycemic diet, hugely alienated. 1 in 7 consumers, and only 20% of consumers even know that something like this is existent. And a lot of that had to do with it just wasn't discoverable, right? Like, it was kind of a non-approachable product. It was relegated to like the Asian ethnic section of the grocery store, which is not hugely trafficked like the mainstream pasta aisle. And so we realized that consumer education is really predicated upon discovery and being available. So we started putting this in mainstream pasta. We started getting looks, and now we're the #1 bestseller in our category on Amazon. We're seeing some huge website growth. We're really starting to put it out there. And us as a business, we're really focused now on the e-commerce channel, and providing just excellent customer service, which we're falling a little short right now, but we're working on it and we're trying to better.
Always good to know where we can improve on customer service and that type of thing. Who would you say is your best kind of target customer?
So yeah, we find that we have 4 main consumer segments. I sort of mentioned them earlier. You have people who are really trying to diet and lose weight. That's not a category that we're really targeting, because we believe in proactive wellness as opposed to like weight loss as a function of wellness. But we recognize that people who are trying to lose weight do gravitate towards our product. Second segment is macronutrient community, like people who are really conscientious about this kind of stuff, like bodybuilders would be one, or those people on those paleo, Whole30, keto diets. Next segment would be people with dietary restrictions. I mentioned those before: celiac, Crohn's, diabetes, gout are the big ones, who just need to eat a low glycemic diet. And then the fourth is really the mainstream market. It's people who want to eat better but don't want to make a radical lifestyle shift and do it. Our product is ready in 2 minutes. It's easier to make than regular pasta. You just open the bag, you strain it, rinse it, put it in a pan, put it in the microwave, add sauce, and you're good to go. No boiling, no mess. It's all clean. So nice. It's now you don't have to make that radical lifestyle shift. You just open it skinny and you're off to the races.
Being in business for 3 years, the large majority of your business has been since the pandemic began. So what, as you launched this thing and started to grow it over the last 3 years, what's been like one of the biggest effects that the kind of economy had, knowing that some say we're about to go into a recession, some say we already are in it. So for other businesses who are wanting to learn, what would you say have been one of like the top 1 or 2 things that you have done to make sure that you stayed successful throughout this whole thing?
So I'll hit on a few things. Number one is I was actually a maritime banker before I got into consumer goods. So I have a pretty deep understanding of global trade and what drives global trade. And it also helps, if people are having international freight issues, I can call up a buddy who works the desk at CMA CGM and he can get our containers pushed out. That always helps too. Understanding which ports have congestion and where to send containers, international shipping is really important. But also, like, at the start, we kind of got lucky. So, we started this before the pandemic. We stocked up inventory to get ahead of Chinese New Year because we import from China. The root literally grows in East Asia, so that's where we need to bring it in from, right? So, we kind of got lucky on the outset because we stocked up, and then all of a sudden, the grocery store shelves were empty, and we were like, "Hey, we got a lot of stock. Who wants it?" So we were able to get going. But then also from that point, we were able to navigate it pretty well. Because look, I know from my shipping days, global, like people were kind of freaking out. People were pointing to inflation. People were pointing towards like freight rates and compression of margin. But you just got to see it for what it is, right? Like, everyone was talking about inflation because of monetary supply. I was seeing it firsthand. The whole reason people were taking price increases, us and everyone else, was because of inefficiency in the supply chain, right? Had nothing to do with monetary policy and money supply. It had everything to do with, inefficiencies in the supply chain. So freight rates and container shipping kept going up. We used to pay maybe $2,500, $2,700 a container to bring it to New York. And before that, we were paying like $1,900 to bring it to LA. All of a sudden, you couldn't go to LA because you just would never get your container. Ships just sat in port. And we were bringing it into the East Coast in New York. It's costing us like $21,000 a container. We ended up averaging out around like $17,500 or $18,500 or something like that for over a year. It was really expensive. That's a huge increase, right? So now, because that's more expensive and because of these, there were like other inefficiencies in supply chain too, like you couldn't get trailers, so domestic trucking was off, and so just prices just kept going up all throughout the supply chain. Just one thing kind of led to the next. But now what we're seeing, and I've been saying this literally since day one, like, yeah, everyone should take price increases because you got to protect margin, and so that was another way to navigate. But like, once you take a price increase, now we're getting a lot of that margin back because freight rates are back in. Like, I can ship now to LA for like $2,350. It's like it's almost all the way back down. To ship to New York, it's like six grand. So it's still a little bit more expensive, maybe a little bit more than double, but it's a lot less than what it was. We're passing that back on to the consumer because we got to remain competitive. So I think you're going to actually see prices start to come in. And everyone keeps pointing to this inflation boogeyman, yet the dollar is appreciating against every international currency. So I'm not at all worried about. Look, you'd be stupid to not be like concerned or thinking about like potential recession pullback, but that's why we're passing savings on to the consumer. Like, now that freight rates are coming in, it has everything to do with people. People are pulling off spending and people are concerned about recession, which means suppliers are bringing in less, which means the midstream is kind of shaken out and it's starting to work itself out and rates are beginning to normalize. And when that happens, like it's happening right now on the international end, it hasn't yet fully happened on the domestic end, but it will happen on the domestic end. And when it does, if you're not passing those savings back on your consumer, you're going to be stuck at a higher price and no one's going to buy your product. So it's just, you got to just see it for what it is, see the field. And that's what we've been doing. We've been trying to stay ahead of everything. And I would say we as a younger company have navigated all of this better than anybody, especially anyone in our category.
So you just rattled off a handful of numbers. We teach the fact that, business is math and business is people, and you got to know the math part because that's normally the easy part. We are the complex part of business, right? Because we have emotions, all those kind of things. What have you found to be the most important numbers for you to make sure that you always had an eye on through this process?
Margin. It's all
Margin.
Yeah, it's all margin.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like there are other numbers too. Like you want to make sure that your product is selling.
Yeah.
But like ultimately, like it comes down to margin, right? What is your margin? And based on that margin, how much can you afford to spend on different marketing channels so that you can drive sales and make it work and still and continue to grow efficiently? It's all margin. Yeah.
Love it. It's more about what you keep than what you make, which is such a cliche thing, yet absolutely 100% accurate. So going into 2023, when this is at least being recorded, we're actually a day away from starting Q4. So heading into holiday sales this year and 2023, what are some major goals that you as a business have?
We want to expand our retail footprint. We're presenting to a couple larger banners, so hopefully we get the nod there. I think we're really setting ourselves up for success. I think we have a good product. The numbers are showing that customers are picking up our product off of the shelf more than our competitors, so that's a good thing. We also, like, from a strategy perspective, our product is smaller than our competitors, so it takes up less shelf space. So if we could prove that we take up less space and we sell more valuable to a grocery store, so it's better for us, it's better for them. We have a really good selling proposition. So we want to really hammer that home to retail. And then on the digital front, we really want to, we just want to provide amazing value to our customers who are coming to our webpage and buying the product and trying to engage with us directly. So we're rolling out the subscription feature on our webpage to buy, because we know people want this on subscription. Like we have a 40% retention rate on Amazon, which is super high. And so we know people want it, and we just need to do a lot better job of providing really good value to consumers. So we're trying to figure that out, like the customer service aspect and
Nice.
like other things, because like I said, we know why people are buying our product. So the more that we can help them with their goals that go beyond just the product, the better off we're going to be. So that's what we're focused on.
When you look at those major goals, what would you say might be the biggest hurdle or challenge that you may have to get there?
It's just time and people and figuring everything out. I think I feel really good about where we're at. Just, we're in the process, right? Like, so just leaning into the process and learning from mistakes, and that's really all for us where we're at right now. That's the biggest thing. It's just staying bonded as a team, living our values, and just not getting too down at the losses, and really celebrating the wins and trying to come together and make something special.
Bryan, you just segued perfectly into my next question, which is, it's said that smart people learn from their mistakes, wise people learn from others' mistakes. So what have been some of the bigger mistakes that you've seen in your business and others could learn from you?
Yeah. I think analysis by paralysis. For a while, we had a capital problem we needed to solve, and just trying to optimize for value and ultimately, what one of our advisors just told me, "Hey, dude, don't optimize for value today. Optimize for value tomorrow." And he said, "Just go solve you have a capital problem. Go solve a capital problem." So that's what we did. We just went out and we probably raised money at a lower value than what we probably could have. But what ultimately happened is we brought in, I think, the best money we could have brought in. Like everyone, we ended up taking money from a syndicate. But the folks in that syndicate are just awesome people, and all of them want to be engaged and want to help. So it's great. Like they invest in you and they go to work for you. It's the best money you can get, right? Like, and they're just amazing people to boot, and they want to do good things in the world. We gave up a little bit on the value end, and I got maybe more diluted than I wanted to be. But ultimately, I recognize that the value creation that we're going to achieve because of that is so much greater. Because now I'm not spending all my time thinking about how are we going to raise money, how are we going to make payroll. I'm spending all my time thinking about how we're going to provide an awesome experience to our consumers. So that's pretty cool.
For our viewers who would like to learn more about your business, how can they get in contact, find you?
LinkedIn is probably the best way to get in contact with me. I'm somewhat responsive to LinkedIn, but I at least see it. And if listeners would say, hey, I heard you on this podcast or recording, I'll respond to it. I typically don't respond other than to Dr. Hartley to LinkedIn requests. But yeah, if people would say that they heard it from here, I would respond.
Awesome. And your website is?
It's skinny.com.
Awesome. And last question for you. We like to end with one final question. In business today, what is the most thing that you find inspiring for you every day?
Well, we talked about it earlier. I have a wife and 2 young kids, and staying level-headed as to why I'm doing this is really important. We're trying to make, so I like my why, originated from my gut issue that I had back in 2014 that drove me to want to make some changes within the consumer goods industry. And now it's also about, providing for my family, providing for our team, and trying to create a world that, I want to be a part of, I want to be proud of, my kids will be proud of. And, so I feel very purposeful.
That's awesome. Well, Bryan, thank you again for taking time with me today. And for all of you watching, I'm Dr. Michael Hart with ActionCOACH. If you're interested in sharing your story, feel free to reach out to my team at ActionCOACH Central Texas, TX.com. Bryan, any final thoughts for our viewers before we end today?
Go buy a subscription.
There you go. Bye for now, everybody.